Today I'd like to introduce you to one of my new favorite IEMs, because in this video I'm looking at the Westone Audio MACH 60 in-ear monitors. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. Now, Westone Audio, they've been around for quite some time. It's an American-based company specializing in professional level in-ear monitors, custom-made universals, etc. A lot of live musicians, sound engineers, etc. use their equipment. So anyway, let's have a look at the shells. That's it there. These come in at a eye-watering $1,100 US in price, and inside we've got 6 balanced armatures per side, 2 for the bass, 2 for the mids, and 2 for the highs. So here are the shells. They are made of a polycarbonate material, and they've got a very lightweight aluminium faceplate there. You'll notice, they've got Westone's standard, for some reason, I don't know why they do this, but extremely narrow nozzles. I don't know if there's a benefit to that in terms of sound or something else, but that's just how it is. It's pretty cool, but it does make tip rolling a bit more difficult. And speaking of tips, I want to show you something. They do come with an excellent variety of silicone and foam ear tips, but just have a look at these. Oh yes, have a look at that. These foam ear tips are almost as big as the IEMs, and these fit my ears perfectly. So thank you, Westone Audio, for providing a pair of foam tips that are actually large enough for my ears. Love it. Anyway, these shells are pretty comfortable for me. They're lovely and smooth, great build quality. I can wear these for extended periods of time. And here you'll notice that is not an MMCX socket. That is a T2 connector socket. And it's very similar to MMCX, but the main difference is, look, it's so easy to plug it in and out. And it does feel just as secure. It does rotate like MMCX. Listen to the click. So yeah, love that. Although it does make it a bit more difficult if you want to do any cable rolling. You will need to get a cable with T2 connectors. The cable itself, very utilitarian, but it does handle very nicely. That, by the way, is the Linum Estron Superbax cable, and it's got a resistance rating of 0.75 ohms, so you're getting the most unaltered, uncolored sound possible. Okay, let's get right into the sound now. And the MACH 60 here, it does require a little bit more power than a lot of average IEMs. The impedance is 35 ohms and the sensitivity is 100 dB. So you can power it with most things, but it does need a little bit more juice, and it does reward you for using a better source. So plug it into a nice DAC or headphone amplifier, etc., and you will love the results. So the general sound signature of the MACH 60 is warm and inviting, with an emphasis on bass and the mid-range, plus a slightly attenuated treble response. It's an extremely resolving IEM, but it conveys music in an effortless manner. Furthermore, it's a monitor you can listen to for prolonged periods of time without experiencing listening fatigue. The bass sounds really lifelike and organic. It's not exaggerated in quantity, but it is imbued with warmth and body. Because of the relaxed treble presentation, the mid-bass in particular is fairly prominent and forward in the mix. There's great layering in the bass, and that sort of layering is a recurring theme throughout the MACH 60's entire presentation. We'll get to that Sub bass notes are present, but they don't hit hard. They don't have the same kind of impact as a dynamic driver bass does. But most importantly, the sub bass is audible and it's balanced with the rest of the soundscape. So while it doesn't have a huge physical impact, it doesn't sound lacking in any way, like looking at you, Dunu Talos. Like most balanced armature bass, this one shows good speed and control. It adds body and thickness to the overall sound, but it does so without any unintentional bleeding or masking of the mid-range. Speaking of the mid-range, the Westone Mach 60 here has one of the most natural sounding mid-ranges I've ever heard. It's smooth, but it never sounds lethargic or veiled in any way. The timbre of instruments and vocals is accurate, and you can absolutely use these IEMs for professional stage or studio purposes. Transients are crisp, but they are never sharp. Despite being warm in nature, the mid-range has excellent spacing and a pitch black background. It's perfect for listening to dynamic music when those electric guitars or trumpets and crash cymbals start going wild. The Mach 60 takes it all in its stride, never loses its composure, and it never becomes harsh. Then there is the treble, and the treble tuning plays a huge role in the Mach 60's presentation. Its laid-back approach helps to create that sort of blacker background and allows you to focus more on the mid-range and nuances rather than micro details. It might sound a little bit too mellow for treble heads though. It doesn't have a whole lot of treble energy, but that is part of how it has such excellent mid-range resolution, by sort of tempering the treble a bit. But if you're looking for that really sort of bright, exciting high end, you won't find that here. And then for soundstage and technical performance, the soundstage on the Mach 60 is where its professional pedigree really shines through. It's not an especially large soundstage, but it sounds really organized, like being in an acoustically treated room or a recording studio. The instrument separation and the overall resolution are excellent, and it really gives you a 3D holographic soundstage where the positions of instruments and vocals can easily be pinpointed. If there's one technical area that I think could be improved on the Mach 60, I'd say it's in the micro details, but however, the Mach 60 chooses to maintain its natural timbre and that non-fatiguing nature instead of going for the micro details, and I'm totally on board with that. Time for a couple of quick comparisons now. We'll start with the FIR Audio 5X5. Now, the 5X5 here requires less driving power than the Mach 60. It has a brighter sound signature, which is the first thing I notice when switching between these two IEMs. The second thing I notice is a loss in resolution. Although this one often sounds more detailed, and that's due to having a more pronounced treble, it doesn't have the same black background or separation as the Westone. The 5X5's bass has a more immediate impact and slam, but the bass level is not that much different from the other one. Both have a neutral and uncolored mid-range, but the 5X5 lifts the upper mid-range more and it brings female vocals more forward. The FIR Audio has a livelier and brighter treble. This gives it slightly better detail retrieval on calmer recordings, but the Mach 60 flexes its muscles more during complex passages where it retains its composure. The Westone is smoother overall, and it excels in instrument separation and soundstage that the 5X5 just cannot match. But the 5X5, on the other hand, sounds more dynamic, albeit less controlled. Okay, and now we've got the Meze Audio Advar, and the Advar sounds more vibrant and upfront in its presentation. It has more bass weight and texture compared to the Westone's more reference level bass. Advar's sub bass is noticeably more elevated and gives a powerful rumble, whereas the Mach 60 has a smoother sub bass tone. The Advar has enthusiastic, vibrant mids and more mid-range clarity. In comparison, the MACH 60's lower mid-range has thicker notes and less articulation. However, the Advar is less forgiving on poorly recorded or sibilant music. Advar's treble is more aggressive. This gives it more micro detail retrieval and a slightly wider soundstage. The MACH 60's treble is more laid back and it is more non-fatiguing, or less fatiguing I should say. The Advar has great instrument separation, but it cannot match the MACH 60's instrument separation and imaging, which is really its strong points, along with that accurate timbre and tone. It might not sound as dynamic as other IEMs that you're used to, especially if you've sort of been following recent chi-fi trends. But overall, this is just a fantastic IEM. I can highly recommend it if you are a music professional, whether you're a live performer or a sound engineer or editor, mixer, whatever. These are fantastic. However, if you are just a hardcore music enthusiast or IEM enthusiast and you are looking for something really nice, these are fantastic. I love them. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it the old thumbs up, Parfam Audio File Style. And if you're new here and you want to see more content like this in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.